Atma Namaste. Atma Namaste to everybody. A very warm welcome to all of you to this nurturing session that we have organized. We are also happy that you could join us. We'll start with a very brief introduction. We are a very small group of pranic healers in Trivandrum under the Yoga Vidya Pranic Healing Foundation of Cochin. We are guided by Cochin sir, who is the managing trustee of the Yoga Vidya Pranic Healing Foundation. This is only the 5th event that's being organized by us. Some of you must have attended a few of our earlier sessions. Today's session is a very interesting topic, a doctor's perspective on pranic healing, which is being conducted by Dr. Prithviraj. I think most of us are very keen on understanding what a doctor thinks of pranic healing, and a validation from someone from the medical field will be very encouraging to aspiring pranic healers and experienced pranic healers alike. Dr. Prithviraj is an assistant professor from the Department of Surgical Oncology, Sri Ramachandra Medical College in Chennai. He completed his MS in 2014. He was trained in oncology further and has been with the SRMC since 2017. He's an experienced Arhatic yoga practitioner and a pranic healing trainer. He's based in Chennai. He's also a trustee of the MCKS Yoga Vidya Pranic Healing Foundation Trust of Chennai. He had learned pranic healing since 2003 and is also an approved instructor for the same. He has been practicing meditation and healing since 2003 and has spoken on meditation and pranic healing in various forums across the states, in both medical and non-medical forums. I hope Kurijan sir has joined us. Shubha. Is Kurijan sir there? Yes, Kurijan sir has joined us. Warm welcome, sir. We'll start with a short invocation prayer led by Kurijan sir, after which we'll be handing over the platform to Dr. Prithvi. I request each of you to please jot down your doubts, your questions, which we will try to attempt to clear by the end of the session. I once again welcome each and every one of you to the session, and I request Kurijan sir to lead us for the invocation prayer. Warm welcome, sir.
Hello, namaste. Welcome. Okay. Please close your eyes. Salutation to the Supreme Being, Divine Father, Divine Mother. Thank you for your great blessings to our beloved teacher, Grandmaster Cochin, to Lord Mahaguruji, to all the great ones, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, to all the saints, to all the archangels, holy angels, and spiritual helpers, angels of love and beauty, angels of joy and happiness to my higher soul. Thank you for your great blessings, for your divine guidance, for your divine love and mercy, for the inner strength to continue with our spiritual practice, for illumination and divine oneness, inner beauty, for abundance and prosperity, for divine help and protection, and thanks and full faith. With lots of gratitude, respect, and love, we thank you. Hearty welcome to all. Thank you. Namaste. Dr. Prithviraj, hearty welcome. I'm handing over to Maya. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Namaste. Thank you so much. shall we go on with? Atma Namaste, everybody. Good evening, and thank you all for joining, especially to Prithviraj sir and all the organizers, to Maya Shobha especially. Thank you for having me here. So, just before we start, I'd like to know how many people are pranic healers here, or rather, how many people are non-pranic healers. That's the simple question to ask, I think. Otherwise, I'll have too many hands to count. Virtual hand, physical hand, anything is okay. Non-pranic healers, okay, 1 person at least. Page number 1. That's all? Only 1? Okay, 4 hands.
I think 4,
Yes.
3.
At least 4 hands going up. Okay. So let's start. If there are a few non-pranic healers, what I'd also do is give a brief introduction about what pranic healing is also. So at least there are at least 6 of them. So for those of them who don't know what pranic healing is, that will also help them understand what we're going to be talking about. Why am I sitting here talking about pranic healing? Pranic healing is something that is really, really special to me. It's something I hold very dear to my heart. Why is that? And how did I come into pranic healing? So just to give you a brief intro of how I landed up in pranic healing, I think it was way back in the year 1996 or 1995 when my father was being treated for asthma. He had wheezing issues. And every day when I was in school, I used to see him use the inhaler, the puff, the smoked inhaler that a lot of asthma patients use. He used to regularly try going to different modalities of treatment. So she tried, I think, homeopathy, she tried Ayurveda, she tried allopathy. Everything was giving results, not against any of them. But whatever results that were coming was short-lived. So the symptoms were coming back, and he had to go back to using the inhalers. To the extent I've seen him use it at least 5 to 10 times every day. And then 96, I think my mother was exploring options. She came upon somebody who was teaching pranic healing in Chennai. And they said it's a no touch, no drug therapy. So when it's no touch, no drug, obviously there can't be too much of side effects. So Amma said, okay, let me go and learn this. So when she came back home after learning it, she was very skeptical actually. My mother was not completely into it. She didn't believe completely. But she came back home. She explained to my father. She said, hello, I've learned this. And they say, without touching you, I can heal you. So why don't you give it a try? And my father said, I understand the concepts. All that is fine. We'll come to the concepts of how pranic healing works. So after all of that, my father said, if by chance I have an asthma attack and you can heal me, then let me believe in it completely. So the next time he had an asthma attack, he actually called my mother and said, would you mind doing the healing now? Surprisingly, it worked. Surprisingly for him, surprisingly for my mother, it worked. The best part is this, in the next 20-25 years, I can just finger count the number of times he's had to use the inhaler. As a doctor, if I can go back, think of it now, I would say that's not possible. Even after so many years of pranic healing, sometimes the mind is a little bit skeptical, but the reality is he's off inhalers completely. So that was the entry. So this was 96 and I was still in school. And I said, I walked up to my mother and she used to heal me whenever I was not well. So I told my mother, I want to learn pranic healing. Can you teach me pranic healing? I think I was 8 or 9, if I'm not mistaken at that time. I think I was 8 years old or something, or a little less than that. She said, sorry, you have to be at least 15. So I had to wait another 8 years before I could learn. But that was the entry into the avenue of pranic healing, the energy world. And from there on, life has been very, very different. Everything that I have, all the good things that I have, probably comes out of pranic healing, mostly. So that's why pranic healing is very, very special. Yeah. Just to give you a brief idea of the kind of work that I do before we start the topic, I'm a cancer surgeon. So I like doing my allopathy work. I like doing my surgeries. So I believe in allopathy, but I believe also in pranic healing. Sometimes I believe a little more in pranic healing. At least that's what my wife tells me. She says you're always a little more biased towards pranic healing. But yeah, but I like doing my work. I like doing surgery. Some of our surgeries are really long, goes for 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. I like doing all of that. All that said, pranic healing is what it is, and it does miracles. So we look at that. So since a lot of you, at least 6, 8 of us or 10 of us are not pranic healers, let me just quickly share screen. We'll run you through what pranic healing is. And by the way, in case you want to unmute yourself in between, I think you can ask. Otherwise, you can put it on chat. I might not be able to see the chat immediately, but whenever I stop sharing or at the end of the session, we'll take up all the questions. Just feel free to ask the questions if you have. So, like all of you know, pranic healing, as we know it, comes from Master Choa, the founder of modern pranic healing. So that's also a teacher. And just to give you a brief idea of who he is, he was born and raised in Philippines, but he traveled the world, taught all over the world. He did about 20 to 30 years of research on pranic healing before actually coming out with the basic concepts of pranic healing that we know. That's why it's a very, very, very scientific, very systematic healing modality. Unlike certain other modalities that we see where things are a little haphazard, him being a chemical engineer, him being a scientist himself, did so much of research, organized it in a way where it became really easy for everybody to follow and understand. And by the way, I've had the good fortune of meeting him a few times, at least attending a few classes, if not in person, but I've attended a few classes in person. Just a gentle reminder for everybody, pranic healing is not meant to replace traditional orthodox medicine, but rather to complement it. So as much as we like pranic healing, as much as a lot of us love pranic healing, let's not go that little bit overboard and say, I don't want to follow anything else, only pranic healing. Just a gentle reminder. By the way, this reminder is for me also. Sometimes I tend to do this. I skip medicines, I skip everything else, and then do only this. So what really is pranic healing and how does it work? If anybody knows, would you like to share? Especially the non-pranic healers, if you've experienced pranic healing, I'm sure somebody brought you in here, so you must have had a session of pranic healing or something. So how do you think it works and what really is pranic healing? Just to put it in simple terms, pranic healing uses prana to heal the body. And what is prana? Prana is nothing but vital life energy or life force which sustains the body. Just to give you an analogy from the physical viewpoint, all of us breathe in oxygen and we have certain energy molecules in the body which sustain the physical body. Now, for the energy body to be sustained, you need something called prana. So this prana is the life force which actually sustains the body. If this prana is not there, the body is not going to be functioning optimally. To give you an understanding, let's look at it like this. Pick up, all of us have a mobile phone, don't we? 1, 2, sometimes 3 mobile phones. Now, you need to charge your mobile phones for it to function properly. When it's on full charge, your mobile phone is functioning properly. When it goes to low power mode, what happens? Sometimes your camera doesn't work, the screen brightness goes down, certain applications don't work. Similarly, if your body does not have enough prana inside, your body does not function adequately. That's why sometimes you feel tired, emotionally tired, mentally tired, especially physically tired. So prana has its effects physically, emotionally, and also mentally. By the way, just to give you an idea, prana is called by all of these terms in different traditions, different languages. Just to give you a small idea, some of us know Tai Chi, the martial arts. That's why the Chinese have Tai Chi. So Chi is nothing but vital life energy again. So some of us know about Reiki or Aikido. That's why in Japanese you have Ki. So it's not something that is confined to the Indian system. It's not something that's confined to India alone or to Sanskrit alone. This life force of prana is known by different terminologies in different religions. So what I'm trying to say is, if you can recharge your body with prana, your body probably will function much better. physically, emotionally, and mentally. So you'll have a more productive system. So how does this prana actually enter your body? And how do you know prana exists first? Now, just to give you a small thing, how many of us can see the oxygen molecule? Can we see oxygen? Can we see carbon dioxide? Can we see electricity? Can we see the DNA molecule? Of course, certain things you can see with a microscope. The result of electricity you see as your light and the fan and different things as appliances in your house. But science as we know it, physical science as we know it, is very, very new in the vast spectrum of life. 200 years, 300 years, or 500 years is very, very, very new. So the physical science that we know is very young. And we haven't yet come up with all the technologies, all the possibilities of discovering and exhibiting proof for everything. Just like Choa says in his book, 200 years back, nobody knew about the existence of electricity. Does not mean electricity did not exist. It just means that we did not have the means to identify electricity yet. Just like that. We don't really have the means to identify prana in a scientific way. But in the pranic healing school, you're taught to feel prana using your hands, and you use this prana to actually heal everybody. Correct? Most of us are pranic healers, and we know how to feel prana, how to heal. Now, if some of you are interested, we'll do an experiment later on as to how to feel prana, especially for the non-pranic healers. Now, just to give you another understanding, some of us can't see X-rays. Most of us can't see X-rays. We can't see microwaves. We can't see ultraviolet radiation. We can't see infrared radiation. But all of this exists. In fact, they all belong to the same spectrum of electromagnetic waves. Your visible light is just tiny, tiny spectrum. On one side, we have the microwaves. On the other side, you have the ultraviolet, X-rays, and the gamma radiation. Just because your eyes can only see a particular frequency, does that mean the others don't exist? For example, bats can see certain other spectrums. Dogs can see certain spectrums. So is our reality the absolute reality? And here, actually, there's something very interesting that happened. So a very interesting thing happened about 2-3 months back. One of my colleagues was actually being treated for a lung issue. Somebody who's a cancer surgeon who's working with me. So we go to the pulmonologist, the chest physician, and we take an X-ray. And he puts the X-ray on the lobby. And I've been in the medical field since 2003. So that's almost like 18 years, 2004 actually, 17 years of being in the medical field. So we've seen hundreds of X-rays. And this chest physician, the pulmonologist, actually looks at the X-ray sideways and he's trying to figure out something. And I was like, in all these years, 15 years of being in the field, I've never seen somebody who look at the X-ray sideways. So curiously, we asked him, what are you trying to do? And he said, I'm trying to look at the dividing of the trachea. The trachea comes down, divides into two, the bronchus, which goes to the right and the left lung. And he said, you can actually see that on the X-ray. I said, really? I didn't know about this. How come? And I looked at my colleague and he said, even I didn't know. So interestingly, we went back to our room, opened up the images on the computer. So we have multiple X-rays on the computer, and we started looking at the X-rays one by one. And what was obvious was the trachea in every X-ray divides into two bronchus. It was right there glaring at us, and yet we couldn't see. Why is that? What the mind does not know, the eyes don't see. You need to be primed to certain things. So just because you don't see something, that does not become your absolute reality. That's just a temporary reality for you. So that's something you have to keep in mind. And this is something we have to keep in mind all through our life. Because even for those of us who've been in pranic healing school for about 10 years, 15 years, some of them, I'm sure 20 years, I'm sure we're still learning. There's a lot to learn. We're not done with our learning. And unless you keep an open mind to learn, you're not going to learn everything. Okay. So how does pranic healing work? So let's go back. This is what I was telling you. Okay. So how does pranic healing work? Pranic healing works on two laws. And I'm sure most of you know these two laws. You have the law of self-recovery and the law of life force. The law of life force is actually very, very obvious. When we as doctors actually treat many, many patients, sometimes when you see a patient coming into your room and you're doing a surgery on this person, you almost for sure tell this person will recover, will get discharged within 4 or 5 days. And then you see another person and you know for sure this person is going to be sitting in hospital for 10 days or 15 days. Why is that? Because some people surprisingly have more of this life force or more of this vitality, and some of them have less of it. Age is one of the factors, though some of them who've been in the pranic healing school can vouch and say age is not a number anymore. Because if you've been practicing, all that you have to do, age is just a number. It does not determine how much life force you have. So the law of self-recovery is that the body is capable of healing itself. Even as doctors, when we actually put medicines or when we do surgery, what are we doing? We are only stitching up something, probably cutting open, removing something, stitching up the body again. But what is actually healing the body? The body has its own capacity to heal itself. And that's exactly what Master talks about in this law. The second law is where we use prana or pranic healing to actually heal. So when you apply prana on a particular part, the part becomes much more vital. It starts healing much, much faster. And this becomes very, very obvious. The more we practice medicine, this second law comes into being, and it's very obvious for us to see. Okay. So talking about all this, how does this prana enter the body? I'm just giving you a basic outline of what pranic healing is before we go into the actual talk. So how does this prana actually enter the body? We have certain chakras. Correct? So we have the 11 major chakras here as taught to us in the system, through which prana actually enters the body and goes out. So there's energy coming into the body and going out. And just like you see here, in this particular image, you have a physical body. So this physical body, this physical image is what we as doctors actually treat. And surprisingly or strangely, we think this is the only reality. Most doctors believe this is the only reality. The rest is just made up in the mind, or we just call it the subconscious mind. Okay. Now, what is the energy body or the aura as you see here? The energy body is an invisible physical body as described by Master, which takes the shape of the physical body. So it actually takes the exact shape of the physical body. And treating this energy body is what we do in pranic healing. Okay. Now, have some of you actually felt this energy body when you learned pranic healing? I'm sure you have. Have you felt prana? I'm sure you have. For those of you who've not done pranic healing, take the class. All it takes is 2 days to learn all of this. So let's go to the actual topic now. So what is health and what is disease? Can someone tell me what is health? And this is the time I'd really like you to share something. Unmute or chat, put it up in the chat. What is health according to you? There's actually a definition for health. Now, if you want the textbook definition, it says health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So what does that mean? We're not just looking at physical health, we're looking at emotional health, mental health, and it's just not merely the absence of disease. But strangely, most often when we doctors are actually treating patients, we forget that part of it. We only treat the physical body. Of course, we do send them for counseling, we do send them for other psychological treatments, but invariably our treatment is mostly restricted to the physical body. So that's one of the issues we as doctors, especially as allopaths, have. So what is disease? Now the way Maschoa explains it is dis-ease. You split dis-ease. So when there's a problem with the physical body, when there's a problem with the energy body, when there's a problem with the emotional or the psychological aspect, it results in a state of disease. And what are the causes of disease? This is where pranic healing comes into the picture. What do you think is the cause of disease? So we have at least two factors. You have a physical factor or an external factor, and you have an internal factor. Now, the external factor can be something like climatic conditions, can be something like germs, the food you take, environment, pollution. Just like we have COVID, COVID becomes an external factor, the coronavirus. But what are the internal factors? Your energy state, your emotional and mental state, that becomes an internal factor. And if your energy is low, if your mental emotional state is not good, what happens to your aura? The picture we saw here, this aura starts shrinking. And when the aura starts shrinking, what happens? Some of these chakras are also simultaneously affected because your emotional state also affects these chakras. What happens after that? Inevitably, it results in a physical disease. So any disease has an external factor and an internal factor. In some cases, it can be a solo factor. Now, some people become more susceptible to certain germs. Some people become more susceptible to certain diseases because they have a lot of internal factors. And this is where we as doctors have to be more open, more understanding of this situation. For example, somebody comes to us and we treat them for cholesterol or we treat them for a heart problem. What do? We run a few scans. We treat them for the cholesterol. How do we treat cholesterol, by the way? Pop in a tablet. Every day in the night, depending on how much cholesterol a person has, 10 milligram, 20 milligram, 40 milligram, pop in a tablet. What caused the cholesterol in the first place? Well, for those of you pranic healers who are here, especially if you've done psychotherapy, you know there's a chakra called the solar plexus chakra. There's an emotional factor. The solar plexus chakra gets affected. It's either congested or there's a problem that happens. The liver is affected. So the liver metabolism is affected, which results in cholesterol increasing in the body. So it results in a state called hypercholesterolemia. But as doctors, do we know that? We say don't get stressed. We say you should practice meditation or do yoga or do some breathing exercises. But we really don't know why this entire process is happening. So that's where the beauty of pranic healing comes in. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing if you know something like pranic healing as an adjunct, especially for doctors. So let's move on. So, knowing.
Doctor, I think there is a message that the voice is feeble. So I think you need to.
Okay. Is it better now? So somebody saying no video. Is my video all right?
We can see you.
Is the audio better or is it still low?
It's okay for me. Mr. Suresh, is it fine now?
Can I request you to use headphones if that's okay?
Yeah, I think it's better to use headphones. If everybody. Yeah, okay. I think it's fine now, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Shall we go on then? So we were looking at diseases and we have an external factor and we have an internal factor. So let's move on to the more interesting part in pranic healing. So most of us know, if not all of us, disease first appears in the energy body before manifesting as a physical ailment, before appearing in the physical body. And this is a very, very, very important thing. And the implications of this statement is manifold. Let's look at it a few ways. Now, except in a few conditions, especially in the case of trauma, like say there's an accident, then the physical body and the energy body are simultaneously affected. In most other conditions, what happens? Disease first appears in the energy body before going into the physical body. Let's look at a few examples here. At least there was one personal story, and then there's a story shared by Master in the book. Now, Master shares a story of an alcoholic whom he's treating, and he says there's a problem with the liver. He scans, there's some part of the liver which has more energy, some part of the liver which has less energy. What does he do? He sends the person to a medical doctor to get checked. The medical doctor checks, runs a few tests, and what happens in the tests? Everything is normal. The medical tests don't pick up anything. But what happens 3 months later, the person is diagnosed with hepatitis. So that just goes to show that any disease first manifests in the energy body. Now, there's one interesting personal experience that happened. Way back, I think this was still when I was in school, before I became a pranic healer, or yeah, I think it was before I became a pranic healer. My grandmother was being healed by my mother, and when she was checking, by the way, pranic healers are not supposed to make medical diagnosis, right? That's one of the rules we had, and we have. So that's one of the disclaimers we have. But my mother, since she was healing my mother-in-law, she was scanning and she was feeling the energies, and she felt there was something wrong with the heart, something wrong in the heart area. So she goes to my father and she says, "Can we take her to a cardiologist? Can we get her checked?" So they go to a cardiologist, do an ECG, do a few tests, everything is normal. They come back home. My dad was a little upset because he said, "Look, my mother is sitting quietly at home and you pulled her to a doctor. Why are you doing this?" But what happened was 3 days later, my mother was again healing my grandmother and she felt something again. So they go back to a doctor. They go back to the cardiologist, do the ECG again, and they just picked up an attack which was just happening. It was a myocardial infarction that was happening. So she was just going in for a heart attack and they picked it up quite early. She went on to live for 10, 15 years after that. So that's one of the examples I can give you of disease first appearing in the energy body before it manifests in the physical body. There's always a lag time that happens. So talking of that, if you can clean the energy body, can we prevent certain diseases from manifesting? Now, also, before we go to that, certain diseases, according to doctors, according to us doctors, are chronic. What do we mean by chronic? Diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, arthritis, they are meant to stay. According to allopathy, you get them, you have to be treated for a lifetime. Agreed, allopathy works that way. But if you can change the energy system, if you can change the energy body completely, maybe the physical body will revert. Maybe the physical organ will actually heal much faster. And maybe the medicines can be reduced by the doctor. So chronic ailments need not be chronic always, need not be a permanent disease. There are certain diseases, though as allopathists, we don't completely agree that they can be cured, they are potentially curable. And there are other systems, like some of them in naturopathy say certain diseases can be cured. So pranic healing is not the only thing, but pranic healing works on a place where it has to be treated. Now, most systems do not know of the existence of the energy body. And if I have to put it, the physical body's health depends on the health of the energy body. Whether we accept it or not, that's the truth. So when the energy body is treated, the physical body has to become all right. There's no other way about it. So if you sort out everything in the energy body, the person automatically becomes all right. So can certain diseases be prevented? Can you even prevent certain diseases from manifesting? For example, if every day you clean your aura of any stress energy, you can remove all stress energy, all dirty energy if you're in your aura every day, will you actually manifest something? Probably not, or probably something very minor. I'm not saying you won't get sick at all. All of us as pranic healers do fall sick, but we come back faster. We heal, we recover much faster because we know these principles of healing. Some of us have been down with COVID. I know at least a few friends, pranic healers and doctors who've been down with COVID, and they were treated with pranic healing also. What happened? They actually healed much, much faster. So, which brings us to the next question. What is a miracle? Can someone type in and say, what is a miracle? By the way, you know this picture, the picture that's shown here. It's a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. There's a beautiful quote by Richard Bach, which says, what the caterpillar calls the end, the master calls a butterfly. Basically, the caterpillar dies and it thinks it's the end of life, but the master, that is God, calls it the butterfly. That's one of my all-time favorite quotes. So I had to put up that picture here for this. So what really is a miracle? Magician pulling out a rabbit out of a hat. Is that a miracle? Of course, that's also a miracle probably. If you can change water to wine, wine to water, you know, Jesus turned, the Lord Jesus turned water to wine. All those are big, big miracles. But think of it this way. somebody comes to me with migraine, somebody comes to the hospital with migraine. Okay, they've had migraine for 20, 25 years. Actually, this happened with a pediatrician who came to my mother for healing. She had 25, 26 years of migraine, and she comes to my house for pranic healing. This was way back again when I was in school. And I think in less than a month's time, she was completely healed. Now, would you call that a miracle? Something she had for about 20, 25 years, gone forever. Until then, she was taking medicines every other day. And for migraine, what do? You try avoiding light, you try avoiding certain stimuluses, you try avoiding certain things. And you keep taking tablets whenever you have the migraine attack. And you just have to go and sleep every time you have a migraine. Now, she being a doctor, she walks up and she says, I'm completely cured of it. I don't get it at all. Now, would you call that a miracle? Let's go to a smaller thing. Somebody, for all of us pranic healers here, this is something we have to think of. Somebody comes to you with a headache. Somebody comes to you with a shoulder pain. All you're doing is moving your hand, removing the dirty energy, projecting fresh prana. 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, the person feels better. Is that a miracle? In the eyes of a doctor, that is a miracle. Because there's no medicines, there's no test done, nothing done. There's a waving of hands. Voila, everything is there to see. The patient is much better already. So all of us as pranic healers, we are probably performing miracles on small scales already. This is something we have to keep in mind. Sadly, most of us are expecting these mega miracles where somebody comes in a wheelchair and then we wave our hand like this and then somebody starts walking and going. That might happen, but that will probably take 10, 20, 30 years of practice before something like that could possibly happen. Has that happened in the past? Of course, with Master Choa, I think that's happened quite a few times. And I think some of you here have actually seen that happen. Who've been with Master Choa in the past. There have been people who come in wheelchairs and who've actually gone off working. With 500 people as witnesses to all sure. So it's not behind the scenes. So who performs miracles? All of us perform miracles. Every time you're actually healing, you're possibly performing a miracle. And this is something we should really, really remember. And that actually makes your healing much, much better. Not to make you more proud, just to make you more excited about the whole concept of pranic healing. What do we really do in allopathy? In allopathy, what do? We treat the physical body. Correct? We treat the physical body, we give medicines, we do surgeries. But what science has not yet discovered is there is something called the energy body outside. So the potential of a doctor is still restricted to the physical body. Allopathy is one of the best known treatment protocols, treatment facilities available, especially for emergency cases. Somebody has a heart attack, somebody has a stroke. What is the first thing that you do? Rush to a hospital, go to an emergency room, get yourself treated. Allopathy is fantastic in its scope, but allopathy is very, very new. We still haven't explored the complete potential of allopathy. Probably there will be a time in the future, say 10, 20, 30 years later, when we as doctors will identify there's something called the energy body, and we will start treating it simultaneously. For example, let's look at a few ailments, something like arthritis. As pranic healers, you know why arthritis happens. Most of us know why arthritis happens. Of course, there are certain chakras that are affected, but again, there's an emotional counterpart to it. There's a psychological aspect to it. There's a little bit of the solar plexus being affected, which slowly moves down, affects certain chakras, also affects the joints. Do we as doctors know that? What do? We give them pills, we do physiotherapy, and we also give them certain other medicines, which partially treat. And what's the final thing that we as doctors do? The orthopedicians remove the knee joint, put in a fresh knee joint. Simple. Whatever we don't like, remove it, replace it. But can you regenerate a joint? If you know about the energy body, if you know the energy body can be treated, you can actually regenerate the joint itself. You can make a proper functioning joint. But of course, that's going to take a little bit of time. Now, where pranic healing really plays an important role is in the psychological ailments. Something like bipolar disorder, something like schizophrenia, something like these maniac disorders, and split personality disorders. Now, all of these, in medical parlance, is termed pure psychological or psychosomatic in some cases, but pure psychological. And how do we treat it? Of course, we do counseling. We try to show them what reality is. We try to keep counseling sessions regularly to show the patient what reality is, what is not reality, how they should live their lives. And we also give certain medicines to help in all this. In some cases, they also use medical hypnosis in certain countries, not in our country, but certain countries actually use hypnosis also. But all of this misses one aspect. The energy aspect is missing. Now, as much as when we're treating the physical body, as much as when we're doing counseling, there's an energetic counterpart to it. But if you can actually apply pranic healing completely, if you can apply pranic healing along with all your counseling, all your allopathic treatments, the treatment of, say, schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, or even autism for that matter, is more complete. I am saying they are potentially curable diseases. You don't have to be scared of them. You don't have to be worried of them. Now, if some of you know psychotherapy, you know exactly what is the cause of your split personality disorders or bipolar disorders. I'm not going to divulge names, but you know what you remove from the webs when you're scanning for them. So that's taught in psychotherapy. Now, the implications of pranic healing, that's why is really good, especially if you've been practicing pranic healing for a while. You almost know that certain diseases which doctors have discounted, have said cannot be treated at all, can potentially be treated. Potentially, I'm not saying in all cases you can, because there are certain caveats and everything. Now, something like autoimmune disorders, multiple sclerosis, or any of these autoimmune disorders, you can actually treat them. Let's give you another small example. Let's take the case of a hypothyroid, a problem which occurs in the thyroid gland. Now, all of us have a functioning thyroid gland. There's a small misnomer that a thyroid gland itself is a problem. Now, some of us think a thyroid gland itself is a problem. All of us actually have a normal functioning thyroid gland in the body. For some of us, it starts functioning less, which is termed as hypothyroid. In some cases, it starts functioning more, which is called as hypothyroid. Commonly, what happens is hypothyroid. So every day in the morning, you're asked to take a pill. Empty stomach. By the way, I take this. If some of you are wondering, you're not alone. Now, if you can actually apply pranic healing and normalize the gland, maybe you can avoid taking the pill. And you can normalize the gland. Instead of just popping it, of course, it's a harmless pill. But if you want to avoid it and stay healthy, all you have to do is treat the thyroid, treat the Agnya chakra, treat the throat chakra, and you're probably done. A month or two, at least we've had people I know, at least 5-10 people are completely cured of this. So the truth is, as much as there was a slide saying the energy body is a replica of the physical body, the reality is this: the physical body is a replica of the energy body. That is the actual truth. Now, believe it or don't believe it, that is the law, that is the truth. So when you treat the energy body, the physical body actually becomes all right. Now, there are certain conditions where you have acute kidney problems, or you have kidney failure, you have neurological problems. Can you treat those? Can you regenerate organs that have already been affected? Yes. Some of you have tried, some of you have been healing for a long time. Kidney, liver can be regenerated. We actually had an imaging, I think about 2006, if I'm not mistaken, there was a convention where there was a doctor who did research and he published certain papers where the spine of a patient was regenerated. Medically, that's not possible at all. And we had MRI scans to prove that. Neurological tissue, once damaged, is damaged medically. It's extremely rare for it to be. That being said, we had MRI evidence of the spine actually being regenerated and and the patient was also symptomatically better. So it was not just imaging evidence, symptomatically the patient was also okay. So there can be certain organs which can be regenerated also. Okay. So let's move on to the last part. What do we use pranic healing for? Of course, we use it to treat diseases. We use it for everyday healing of other people. Are there other applications of pranic healing? Now, this is where pranic healing is very, very unique for me. Of course, there are many, many treatments which will give you solutions for your diseases, but pranic healing is not limited to healing the body alone. It's not limited to healing your emotions alone. There's a lot more that you can do with pranic healing. Now, the entire world is an energy body. Everything in the world is energy. So what we use is also kind of energy. So using that, can we do other things with pranic healing? Of course you can. So where can it be used? You can use it for relationship healing. You can use it for prosperity. Now, there have been a few stories that have been shared. There was a particular person who didn't have a proper job, who was well qualified and who didn't have a job. What was done? A particular chakra. Okay, let's come out with it. The basic chakra was treated and it was normalized. A month later, the person actually landed a job, actually got a job. He continued the treatment, the person got promoted. So somebody who didn't even have a job in the first place, just by treating the energy part, just by treating the energetic counterpart and certain chakras, actually started manifesting prosperity in their life. So that's one of the psychological aspects of certain chakras. By treating certain chakras, you can actually enhance your spiritual aspect also. So pranic healing, of course, helps in the health aspect. That's why we're here talking about this. But relationships can be healed. Spiritual aspects can be enhanced. Especially, most of us, I think this is very, very important. The prosperity part. All of us want money, don't we? By using pranic healing, you can actually improve your prosperity, the amount of money that you're earning. Now, how does it help us doctors, especially? Now, just to give you a fair idea of how a hospital is, how many of you like going to a hospital? I like going to a hospital. That's my bread and butter, so I don't have an option there. I have to like going to a hospital. Anybody else who likes going to a hospital? Can you? Most people would say no, especially if you go to a hospital and you're coming back, you feel drained. You've not done anything, you've just stepped into the hospital for about 10-15 minutes or half an hour to visit somebody. When you come back, what happens? You start feeling drained. For some of us healers or doctors who've been treating a lot of patients, sometimes you feel a little tired. Now, why is that happening? Because the energy of that particular place is like that. So we as doctors, especially doctors who don't know pranic healing, who don't know how to clean their auras, when they go into a hospital, and they tend to absorb the energy there, and they tend to get contaminated there. There are energy links that are formed. What happens to them over a period of time? Will they continue to be healthy? Probably not. Invariably, a lot of doctors, 45, 50, of course, there's a lot of stress that contributes to it, but 45, 50 years, most doctors seem to be coming up with either diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, or a heart problem. And nowadays, we're seeing a pattern where it's coming much, much earlier. So in the 20s and 30s itself, doctors are manifesting. So if you actually know something like pranic healing, what can you do? The minute you're coming out of the hospital, you can actually clean yourself before you even enter home. And you don't transmit all of that, or you don't throw your garbage back at home. So that's something that's really, really precious for me. Do I do this every day? Not so much. But at least that's a tool that I carry. So in case there are days when I'm feeling extremely tired, extremely not so good mental emotional state, I at least know what I have to do. Okay. So ideally, just before we finish, and then we'll take up a few questions. This is our normal aura for a lot of us, unfortunately, is like this, me included. Most days our auras are like this. But what we're trying to form is something like this. How can you do this? Regular pranic healing, probably the meditation on twin hearts. We're not talking about the meditation on twin hearts here, but regular meditation on twin hearts and regular healing can actually cause this. Now, all this being said, We know the truth. We've spoken about a few things. Some of us, even as pranic healers, some of us who've been practicing pranic healers for many years now, sometimes we don't want to see the obvious truth, or we close our eyes and we say, I don't want to see this. The reality is your energy body is very, very important. And the health of the energy body is extremely important. Everything that happens to the energy body affects the physical body. So let's not shut our eyes. Let's not become ostriches. Let's look at reality. Now, before we finish, there are a few scientific researches that's happening. There's a lot of research that's going on in the pranic healing school now. Now, some of us have been doing research on treating certain patients. Just to share a quick story, if some of you don't know, there was a particular research done by a neurosurgeon based in Chennai. Now, in his hospital, everybody who enters the hospital is offered pranic healing. So he has a hospital in Chennai. Everybody who enters his hospital is offered pranic healing. And they do brain surgeries on patients who come there. So they are offered pranic healing. It's not compulsory. So patients get to choose. So there was a research that was done on a group of patients who underwent surgery. What was the research? Some patients were given pranic healing before the surgery. Some patients were given pranic healing after the surgery. Some patients received both. Some patients received none. What was the final result? For people, especially who received pranic healing before, during, and after the surgery, there was a drastic result. The duration of the surgery was much lower. The amount of blood loss was much lower. The time duration of their stay in the hospital was much lower. And doctor claimed, the same doctor was performing the surgery, the doctor claimed the surgery was much easier also. Of course, there were a few more parameters. I can't recall all of them. This was again in the 2006 convention that was presented when Master was around. And that being said, there's the MS Ramaya Medical College in Bangalore. There's a research wing where they're doing a lot of research. So there's a lot of research that's coming up, a lot of publications that are coming up from the medical field. We're still working on things and we're looking at it long term. Now I'm looking at doing a few studies myself. Probably 3, 4 years, 5 years later, we might come up with something. But until then, we just have to go with what we have as evidence. The scientific world, we can't really call it concrete evidence yet. And with that, let's come to the last part. Now, for me, pranic healing is not a healing modality. It's a way of life. Every day, every minute, every hour, there's always an application of pranic healing that we can use in some way or the other. How is for you to explore? How is really for you to explore? The applications of pranic healing are many. There's no limitations at all. You just have to have an open mind to explore. So if there are any questions, I'll probably take questions now. Sorry, I've not had a look at the chat also.
If anybody needs to ask a question, yes, please.
Can we treat neurological degenerative diseases? Now, of course, there are certain conditions which are potentially treatable. There are certain conditions which may not be treatable, but symptomatically people start getting better. Now, we're not saying all diseases are completely treatable with pranic healing. Not saying all diseases will be completely cured, but there's a definite improvement in their symptoms. And in some cases, miraculously, they get completely all right. So there are many factors. No, we've not spoken about the karmic factor at all here. So we only spoke about the external and internal factors. There are certain other factors which play a role also. Can neurological diseases be treated? Yes, but can they be completely cured? Potentially, yes.
Actually, I want to ask a question.
Yes, please.
See, actually, from pranic healing point of view, the recovery happens because of the two basic principles, law of recovery and this initial two basic principles. But according to allopathy, what is the reason of the patient gets recovered from allopathy side?
Now, the law of self-recovery applies to allopathy also.
So are you doctors told that the patient heals not because of the medicine, but because of the law of self-recovery?
Not really, but okay, let me give you a practical example of this. You have a cut. How does the cut heal? All of us have a cut when we work in the kitchen, or we have a burn injury. How does it heal? Do we do anything?
I'm sorry,
No.
your video audio is breaking. I'm sorry.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
Now,
little.
okay. No, when we have a cut injury, when we cut ourselves in the kitchen, how does the body heal? The body heals on its own. We don't do anything as doctors. Now, when somebody has a viral infection, somebody has a bacterial infection, they have a cold or a sore throat, how does the body heal? Even if you don't give an antibiotic, the body actually heals. How does the body heal? Because the body has its own mechanism to heal itself. It has an immune system. It has a healing mechanism by which it actually heals itself. So this is a very obvious law, which may not be obviously stated by doctors, but that's the truth. Now, do they teach us that? Do they call it the law of self-recovery in medicine? They don't call it the law of self-recovery. But do they tell us that the body has a capacity to heal itself? Yes, they tell us the body has a capacity to heal itself. All we're doing as doctors is facilitating that process. We're enhancing the capacity of the body to heal itself.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Most welcome. Can you overcome fear by using pranic healing? Yes, you can overcome fear by using pranic healing, and it's quite easy. So you need to do pranic psychotherapy for that. That's the third level of pranic healing, by the way. So addictions, by the way, anybody with food addiction. Okay, let's not think about smoking, alcohol addiction. Food addiction. Me. I'm there in that. So anybody with food addiction, okay, thank you. There's at least one more person. By the way, addictions can be overcome. Addictions can easily overcome using pranic healing. Quite simple. Have I overcome addictions using pranic healing? Yes. For myself, yes. By the way, just to share, there was a point in time when I could do anything to eat a packet of chips. Just a packet of chips. Of course, that was when I was much younger, to the extent I once licked mud to get a bowl of chips. So, that's what is called an addiction. All I needed was a bowl of chips. So my brother told me, "You'll mind licking mud for that?" I said, "Sure, why not? That's all I have to do for a bowl of chips." I did that. And now I can have a packet of chips in front of me and not touch it at all. Anybody else? Any other questions? I'm trying to look at the chat. Sorry, I seem to have jumped.
Dr. Prithviraj, I would like to share. Can I share?
Yes, please. Yes, Dr. Jayashree.
Yes. Actually, today's your session has given me inspiration. As you share, I would like to know the name of the hospital where you said they are providing the healing energy before surgery and after surgery.
I think it's called Excellent Care Hospital.
Okay. So as you shared, I have just treated 2 patients. In that, without anesthesia, I have done the dental decay remove. I think the echo is going on. Is it? Can you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. So I have treated only 2 patients. In that, I have not given anesthesia, local anesthesia, but I have removed the dental decay. They were my friends. But now, as you shared, it is like an inspiration to me, and I will definitely go and work over there. Before the root canaling and before the implant surgery, I can give the healing to the patient by choice. And if it's good, then okay, this is one of the way to increase my practice as well as to spread the master's techniques to the world.
Thank you for sharing that. Actually, that reminds me of a story from the past. So there was a maxillofacial surgeon based in Chennai who's no more. So he did an extraction on his daughter without anesthesia. So he pulled out a tooth on his daughter just by using pranic healing for local anesthesia. And he pulled out the teeth. He did it on his daughter because, of course, you can't find a scapegoat outside. So he had to do it on his daughter. So, and it worked. Absolutely.
Yes, thank you. And as you shared previously also, the healing therapies is helping to come out of the COVID easily. In that, I have shared the healing therapies with my team to my needy patients. In that, from the ventilator, the person came out just in 3 days to the normal. Was in the April and May, there was a worse situation. In that, we have done the healing therapies.
Wow.
Great. Thank you so much.
Coming out of ventilator in 3 days is amazing.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, doctor. I'm Shobha here from Cochin. My daughter has a peculiar problem. She's very allergic to nickel, even traces. If nickel is there she can't take turmeric, she can't take whole grains, and and that has manifested into about autoimmune diseases as well. So she has been diagnosed. She's in the civil services. She has been diagnosed with lupus. Then she had this thyroid problems, as you said. So a lot of issues, but when we have removed nickel from her diet, it was coming down, but the inflammation of body and the allergy is not going. I'm a pranic healer, and I have done some, our blood purification and the protocols I have followed, but still she has a lot of issues. So I'm a little worried about that too, So, can I get a specific opinion from you?
What I would suggest is probably if you can share a few reports, because I have to look at the reports before we discuss the exact protocol. But can we apply pranic healing? Yes, we can apply pranic healing, but we'll probably have to discuss the techniques a lot more in detail. Probably everyone may not understand if we're talking about certain techniques. So
okay.
But you could contact me. So,
sure.
And I'd be happy to help you out.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay.
Can I speak?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
please. Dr. Prithviraj, thank you for the good session. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you. Thank you so much.
I'm speaking from US. It's early over here. But I came to know about your course. I'm proud of you.
Thank you for joining.
And I just wanted to ask you, to maintain the energy bodies, have you to do daily something? Or is it daily thing or weekly thing, or how do you maintain it? Because I had done long back pranic healing and then I left it, because of my practice and all, it became, I don't know. So I've just forgotten it, but I want to revive daily. Have you to do something, some basic things?
No harm in doing it every day, but that's a very tricky question. It's almost like asking, do I clean my house every day? Do I clean my house once in 2 days, once in 5 days? Really depends on how dirty the house is going to become. But ideally, yes, you keep your house clean every day. So ideally, yes, you clean up your system every day. At least, if not anything, we do the meditation on twin hearts, which automatically flushes out a lot of things. So ideally, on an everyday basis is recommended, but that's not mandatory. You don't have to be obsessed with doing the healing every day on yourself. If you've been doing a lot of other things, then once in 2-3 days is also good enough.
So meditation is more important.
Meditation is important, diet is important. Also, like Master says, character building. So all that actually contributes to how your energy body health is. So it's not just one aspect. So there are multiple aspects.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just to answer your question, can you clean your body every day? Of course, you can clean your energy system every day. That's perfectly okay. No harm done.
But it takes long time?
10-15 minutes. If you're doing it every day, that's all it takes. But if you're doing it once a month, then probably it'll take 2 hours.
Can you send us your email so we can get the basics?
I think it's already up on the chat. Somebody's posted it on the chat.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Again,
Appreciate
thank you so much, ma'am, for joining from this. Really nice of you. Anyone else? Any questions? I'm sorry, I can't see all the chat messages. It seems to be going up and down. So in case somebody has a question, you might have to unmute it.
Hello, sir. Can you please share some of your experience with cancer treatment using pranic healing?
Okay. Now, some of us in the cancer treatment protocol, most patients when we see who come with cancer, they come with really, really low emotional states and the energy system is already very depleted. So the minute they're diagnosed with cancer, what happens? They start feeling depressed because it's almost like writing a death sentence. So at least that's what is the common understanding of what cancer is. So when we actually do pranic healing or when we teach them the Prithviraj meditation and we're doing this, the emotional mental state becomes much, much better and they start feeling more energized also. So it's very easy for them to actually handle their chemotherapy and actually handle their surgery also. And there's at least been, I think, one colleague of mine who's been working on the chemotherapy. They've been trying to clean the chemotherapy medicines to reduce the potential side effects of cancer. And that seems to be working well. Again, we don't have a published paper yet for that, but there's at least one colleague of mine who I know is working on that. So they clean up the chemotherapy before giving the medicine. And that works. By the way, for the COVID vaccine, a lot of us had side effects. If you can also clean your medicine, clean the vaccine before taking it, probably you can reduce the side effect. Vaccine is safe, but just to remove the side effects. And that worked in my case. To give you more details, I'll probably have to take it offline to give you details on the cancer research that we do.
Thank you, sir. But have there been cases where they have been completely cured using pranic healing techniques after?
There have been a few offhand cases where it's been completely cured, but you can't. There has been image evidence proved also, but we'll need a series of cases before you can actually publish something like that. And in most cases, we don't avoid medical treatment. They start simultaneously. So it's very rarely that you have only pranic healing and you don't do anything else. It's extremely rare that that case happens. It's only when somebody refuses treatment. In most cases, we say take pranic healing, but also go to the doctor, start your treatment. So it's mostly simultaneously that's happening.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Most welcome. Can pranic healing help to regenerate nerves? Potentially, yes. We'll have to apply pranic healing, but the process is going to be a long time. Now, not all diseases are cured in one sitting. Not all treatments happen in one sitting. Some takes a week, some takes about 2-3 weeks, some will probably take even months. Like say something like autism probably will take about 5-6 months or a little more. So there are cases where we have to be patient. There are cases where the treatment is like this. And there are many, many factors that contribute to all of that.
Doctor, there's a question from one Mr. Pradeep Kumar. He's mentioned something about a neurological issue.
I was just trying to address that, the neurological issue. So can nerves be regenerated? Yes, it can be regenerated, but it's a long drawn process. And we have to be patient with it. Now, this is where I said, even if the treatment is not complete, if the person does not completely recover, they can potentially become much, much better. Say, for example, somebody with multiple sclerosis finds it difficult to even walk. Their stability is bad. If you can apply pranic healing, their stability, the equilibrium, the maintenance of balance becomes much better. So they're able to carry out their normal activities at least. They may not become completely all right. They may not get over the disease completely, but things have become much, much better, which allopathically is still really difficult.
Hello. Any more questions there? Okay. I'd like to thank
Preeti,
Dr. for this.
Preeti, there's an echo coming. I think there are more than one
Okay.
devices on. Can you switch off one?
Okay. I would like to thank you, Dr. Prithvi, for this wonderful session. Thank you for enlightening all of us with this, with your deep understanding in medicine as well as pranic healing. And I hope this will inspire all of us to take pranic healing more seriously, practicing more seriously, and learning more about pranic healing. Thank you for such an encouraging session. And I thank all the participants of this session for your time spent to learn about more about pranic healing. And your enthusiasm makes it a great success. And I would like to add some more about some 2 online courses that are running now by Pranic Healing Foundations, because this is COVID time. All the usual courses are not there. So Pranic Healing Foundation India is providing 2 main courses. That are Pranic Self-Healing course, in which you can learn about how to practice self-healing for your health, to maintain your health and recover yourself from diseases. And another course is a wonderful course, that is Achieving Oneness with Higher Soul, which will in which you will be able to learn more about how to practically face your life. And like that, these 2 are wonderful courses that you can choose your time, your suitable time. So many sessions are happening now. So for more details, you can either contact any of us organizers, or you can directly go through the Pranic Healing website, www.worldpranichealing.com. And you can also contact Pranic Healing Foundation Cochin for more details about these courses. So thanks again, Dr. Prithvi, for this wonderful session. Now we can end the session with a prayer. To the Supreme Court, Divine Father, Divine Mother, to my spiritual teacher, Grandmaster Chokoksi, to Lord Mahaguruji Mailing, to all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, healing angels, and spiritual helpers, to all the higher souls. And we thank you all for making this session so wonderful and so interesting. Thank you for blessing all with this new knowledge. Thanking you all in full faith. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you all.
Thank you. Just before we end, I would like to thank the Vidya Pranic Healing Foundation of Cochin, especially Kuriyachan sir, and also Heal the World Pranic Healing Centre, Trivandrum. Maya, Preeti, Shobha, and Rahul. Thank you all for having me over. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir.
By the way, it's Prithvi. There's no sir.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining.
I would like to add one more thing, because there is a interesting meditation called Twin Heart meditation in Pranic Healing. You can go through the Pranic Healing website timings. When we do the Twin Heart in group, it will be more beneficial. So you can go to the World Pranic Healing Foundation.com to find a time suitable for you to do the group meditation. Please go through the website and please join any of the sessions that is suitable for you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Nobody is willing to go.
So, Kuriyachan sir, can you speak now?
Thank you, Dr. Albu Namaste.
Namaste, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your wonderful, we are very much grateful to you, Cochin Foundation. We are thankful to you. And we are conducting, thank you, sir. We are conducting 2 days Pranic Healing basic course. at Trivandrum also. So you can, those who are interested can contact Maya Vijay and learn this wonderful pranic healing basic course. And thank you, doctor, once again. And thank you all the participants.